Welcome to the You Decide podcast. I'm Dr. Tiffany. We are going to bring you stories of ordinary people who have chosen to live an extraordinary life, outside of their comfort zones and into confidence, possibility, and certainty. You are just one decision away from living your most aligned life, because let's get real, that's what we all want. Welcome. Today we're going to be talking to Dr. Delrae Messer. Delrae is CEO of Free Life Global, a global health and wellness company committed to helping other people transform their lives through nutrition solutions. She graduated magna cum laude. Is that how I say that?
Yep.
From Northwestern in 2007. Her passion for solving the healthcare crisis started as a young athlete in rural farming community, North Dakota. Woohoo! That's how we met. After creating a sustainable lifestyle weight loss program in her chiropractic office, she moved her business online to coach clients and healthcare professionals with the ability to design her work around her two girls, McKenna and G, 16 and 6 already, crazy. As a single mama, she's passionate about helping women in social impact entrepreneurship, sustainable agriculture, volunteerism, environmental impact, and has created a platform to fundraise for nonprofits through experience-driven events. Her current projects include school gardens, vertical growing systems, promoting positive mental health through contribution, and creating a team of servant leaders who want to make a difference. Woo, that's a mouthful. You are doing amazing work. Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here. So we met in, was it 2009, 2010-ish, right?
Yes.
Yes. So I initially met Delrae. She came into my office to do nutrition and detox work. And then we hit it off, just being small town, rural North Dakota, morals, values, right? That's kind of how we got connected. So I want you to just share a bit about your journey and go as far back as you choose to. When was like that pivotal moment, probably growing up, that you knew you wanted to help people at the depth that you help? What I really love about you is you are maybe the most disciplined person I know. Like that time that I wanted to go for happy hour and you said, let's go for salads and coffee. Right. Do you remember? Okay. So, but besides that, well, you are, everyone would say that about you, because you see sacrifice differently than many people in terms of your nutrition, your health, your body, your mindset, and your values and your decisions are very aligned. That's what I love most about you. So, and also that you never settle for less. You're never going to put yourself in a place of contentment. You are going to always move through that comfort zone and be something greater. So that's why I really wanted you on, by the way.
Awesome.
But I want you to share, because I think, the people that you work with are very similar to the people that I work with and talk to every day also, which that's who the listenership is going to be. And we start to get stuck in this cycle of have to, need to, should. And we sometimes lose a vision of who we want to be in that process and who we want to impact. So can you just talk a little bit about like what got you to here, and then we'll just kind of roll on from there.
Yeah, absolutely. I really think a large influence that I had in my life for self-discipline, I've always been very, very self-motivated, intrinsically motivated. And it's because I'm a problem solver. So if I see problems, I want to solve them. If I see hurting people, I want to help in some kind. That's just who I am. It's how my brain is wired. But I always say that nothing that we have in our life is due to luck. The opportunities create themselves the more consistent you become to actually creating opportunity. But I will say the one area of luck that I feel I had in my life and where I feel I won the lottery, were my parents. And not a lot of people have that. And because so much of our mindset and our belief systems are hardwired by the time we're 7, I really feel going back to even that time is so important, because there are a lot of people that didn't get that. They got programming that was, you know, fear-based and scarcity-based, and I had a lot of those as well. But I chose to take from my upbringing what was going to help me become more of a problem solver and be more disciplined to really serve more people. So I knew at a really young age that I wanted to be in something in health and wellness, because what didn't feel right was masking symptoms, and what didn't feel right was that people were really sick. It didn't feel right that people were unhappy and unfulfilled, and I wanted to solve that problem. And I knew masking that was never going to be a long-term solution for change. So I was inspired to become a chiropractor because I was a young athlete, and as a young athlete, I learned a lot of self-discipline. If you have to show up for anything, I don't care if you're doing piano lessons or you're an athlete, you know, whatever you have in those younger years really shows up, I believe, later on. So I had a desire to be consistent, because I knew that consistent created results. And the most beautiful gift that I was given is I wasn't a natural athlete.
Yeah.
I
Awesome.
was really horrible, actually. The first race that I ran, I got dead last and was lapped twice by the first place runner. And I was so surprised that when I crossed the finish line, my dad was there and looked up at me, and I was so embarrassed. I was like, people are already leaving the stands and I'm finishing. And he looked at me with this level of fulfillment that I really can't explain in words. He said, "You finished. And by the time you're a senior, I see you winning this race." And it was that moment of two lessons. The first one is never forget the joy in your journey, and that it's not about the outcome, it's about who you become in the process. That is the most fulfilling part of growth. And too many people we are now in an instant gratification society, where if we feel like we don't get the result right away, we just dip out. And I encourage people to lean in when you most want to dip out, because usually outside of your comfort zone is where you grow. But we are so conditioned to live small and to dim our light and to fit into a box, because it's just really how we've been taught to live our life.
Absolutely.
So I knew in that moment that if I did want the result to be winning a state track meet and have excellent academics, and I personally took school very seriously because my parents couldn't afford college. So I knew I wanted a scholarship academically and athletically, because honestly, that was a part of me saying, like, they don't have to worry about it. So I did take that self-discipline seriously. And I learned that what I learned in the process between those 5 years of personal growth and development set me up for a lifetime of success, of a growth mindset instead of a fixed mindset. Because if I would have said, I suck, I am a horrible athlete, I am a disappointment to my dad, I will never be able to contribute to this team the way that I want to, I would have never seen the success in my personal growth through that 5 years. Because how many of us do that? We try something once or twice, we think we have a great idea, but we don't even take action on it because we don't feel like we know how, when in fact the why is so much more important. The why for me was, I wanted to be the first person in my school to create a cross country team because we didn't have one. So I wanted to go first so that many other kids could follow in that footstep and get an excellent experience. So that was number one, was joy in the journey, finding fulfillment through personal growth, contribution, service to others versus actually the end result. And so many people that are achievement driven, or when we live in the society of accolades and awards and thinking that the only way we make a difference is by doing something so big, we've lost our way, because it's the day-to-day of looking up and smiling at someone, opening the door, volunteering, giving back, being involved in your community, the simple things that we think, don't mean anything or what mean the most right now. And that's just simply finding joy in your day. So that was number one. He just gave me that ability to look at the journey differently. And two, it's to really let go of the outcome, because I got second place. I didn't get first place my senior year of high school, and it was the most beautiful gift I ever received, because it once again taught me that the outcome or the plan may not be what we expect, but all the beautiful gifts that you get in between are huge. And what it took to get from point A to point B was massive self-discipline and consistency in the very, 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 very small things. So it was a morning routine, it was goal setting, it was small wins. Because if I went from dead last to just even competing in a certain level, I had to celebrate the small wins. I had to start with a realistic goal that I could achieve so I could move the needle, so that I could move to another goal. And too many people set these unrealistic goals, or these goals that are so far-fetched that we don't celebrate the small wins in between. And it's really challenging to get excited when you don't feel like you're getting anywhere. Or in fact, you can actually say to yourself, what did I learn today? Who did I help feel valued, seen, and heard today? You know, so those were some of my takeaways of finding a different level of joy in honestly being just a really curious person, and asking myself, what am I learning that's more important than the result?
I love that. So tell me how you feel. I'm just going to go the sports route for a minute. When you talked about not getting stuck in the accolades and the awards and everybody getting a ribbon, right? That's the stage we are in. Can you tell me how you parent your kids differently, and then how that relates to the big, so what, I mean, where McKenna is at 16 in high school sports is a challenge, right? I've been through that and still in it, but tell me how you parent differently, and then how that plays into the whole perspective of how other people are parenting around you.
Yeah, I'm no expert, I'll tell you that, but I am somebody that's very vulnerable. That one of the biggest self-limiting beliefs that I had was that I was a really bad mom. And part of that stemmed from, I had my daughter when I was 20 and 21, just turned 21. So I was honestly growing and learning with her. I feel like I made a lot of mistakes. When I look back, I thought they were mistakes. But I realized being vulnerable with her and just sharing, listen, I was trying to figure it out at the same time you were, has freed me of so much guilt and pain. And I think any parent is just really just trying to create a good human at the end of the day. Absolutely. And, you know, we're surrounded now in a world that is so full of highlight reels and so far away from how I grew up, how you grew up. I mean, I would never want to be a 16-year-old right now. With a click of a button, you are comparing yourself to every woman's body that's photoshopped. Absolutely. You know, so instead of trying to put them in a box and not let them out, or trying to protect them from what's happening, I am very open with my communication and help them navigate life by helping them ask the right questions. And once I started asking myself the right questions, everything changed. My life has not gone according to plan. I got pregnant at 21. I had her 3 months old when I started graduate school. It was the hardest thing that I've ever done. I epically failed forward in a couple of businesses, robbing a lot of time from her and my journey together. And I've realized through all of that, what I learned the most was the ability to communicate and be very vulnerable. And when I'm vulnerable with them, I admit that I might not have all the answers, but we can talk through this together and work through it together. And most importantly, I reinforce in them core values, character traits, and I role model everything that I want them to learn, because we learn through behavior more than words, and we learn through action more than words. So everything in my life that I choose to do, I want to positively influence how they see the world, whether it's creating an all-inclusive community of diversity, whether it's treating people with respect and kindness, no matter what. You know, whether it's showing them that massive amounts of abundance that I've been able to create the past few years can be used for good. So I can instill in them a healthy, positive money mindset and that you can build school gardens and greenhouses and do charity work and relief work with a lot of money. So I'm trying to look at all the things in my life that produce such just unhealthy relationships because they were self-limiting beliefs that I wasn't able to work through because I didn't necessarily have a very communicative household. A lot of praise, and I'm a words of affirmation love language. So a lot of me feeling worthy was through praise and accolades of athletics. So I'm very careful on how I praise my girls. I praise them on work ethic. I praise them for failing and trying again. I praise them for grit and persistence and perseverance. I praise them for their kind hearts, their servant hearts. They are problem solvers. They see somebody hurting or a problem in our world and they want to create a solution for it. And, you know, if we instill those kind of core values of empathy for people and problem solving skills, then you'll have a human that can create an exceptional impact on our planet, but also always keep in mind what's important. And so that's how I role model parenting. And of course I make plenty of mistakes, but I admit them and I keep trying to be better every day.
That's amazing. So what would be, what are some tools that you use, that you live by, that when you come up against a barrier that you perceive as unfathomable, right? Because that's just fear speaking. What are those tools that you use to continue to break out of your comfort zone or continue to go against the grain because you've been doing it for years? Share a little bit about that.
Yeah, so if you can actually picture a toolbox, most of us either don't even know we have it because we have very little self-confidence, self-worth, or self-belief. We don't even believe that there's tools in the toolbox and it's actually sitting right beside us. We just haven't opened it yet. Or we open it and there's a lot of really rusty tools in there. And we don't want to go and sharpen them again because we feel that it's going to be challenging or it's going to be stressful or we don't have enough resources. You know, these are a lot of self-limiting beliefs that I hear from people. And what's beautiful is I've been in a place in my life where I can say that's just BS. Like that's just BS. I was never gifted opportunity. I wasn't gifted money. I wasn't gifted anything. I created it, and especially with major obstacles in my path. Having my little one, you know, second time around. Now I'm a mom with two daughters from two different dads in a second unhealthy relationship. Not any blame. I take extreme ownership that I didn't know how to communicate well. I didn't know how to align myself with someone that shared core values versus common interests. So I take extreme ownership for everything that has happened in my life. I do not blame, complain, or justify away anything that has happened in my life. And there have been some really, really tough things that have happened to not only myself and maybe some of you that are listening, but it can't be your excuse to not move forward anymore. Reach inside that toolbox and say, if you could write a letter to your persistence in your life, like what would it say? You have achieved something before. You have gotten through a struggle or a challenge before. What did it take in order to do that? It took a self-discipline to look always at the gift and the pain that we've had in our life and the challenges and say, what did I learn from that? I think that's one of the most important lessons that I have ever learned. Because recently, even in the past 3 months, my significant other has been going through some really, really, really tough health challenges that are very, very scary. And I realized that the reason why God put him in my life is because I had this really shiny toolbox beside me to be able to say every day, what's the gift here? Like, how can we find more meaning and purpose in our day, no matter what the outcome is? Like, I have realized that over the past 4.5 years of some of the biggest struggle that I've had, you overcoming that and growing through it and not giving up and leaning into it, all the fear, all the unknown. The reason why people stay in their circle of safety or your comfort zone is because it's very secure. It is comforting. There's safety, there's certainty, No one else will talk about you if you just live in the box that they want you to live in. You know, you can trust that you're never going to fail if you don't try. So of course we stay there. That's certain. And humans love certainty. We love feeling secure and certain. It's why we stay in jobs that we hate. It's why we stay in relationships that don't serve us. It's why we stay in a body that we want to change but continue to abuse it. It's why we cower when we think of having to do something that's scary. And I totally get that because I've been in those places. But the question that I ask myself, or the questions I ask myself when I wake up in the morning and when I go to bed at night, those questions don't align with staying inside my comfort zone.
Awesome.
Those questions that I ask myself require me to go outside my comfort zone because somebody needs me on my A game today. Somebody needs me to solve the healthcare crisis and figure out how we can make people more in tune to the fact that what if you looked at your body as a way to serve more people? When I go and do relief work, I call it fit to serve. I don't care if I have six-pack abs when I'm cleaning mold out of a house for another human. There's a different, if you ask yourself a different question, you may actually find the answer faster than you ever thought possible. Not why do I need to, fit into a swimsuit for a vacation, but why must I change so I can actually become the parent that I want to be? Why must I change so I can actually serve my community with energy and positivity? Those are the questions that I asked myself. Why must I be better in order to make an impact? There were a lot of things that I had to change. My time management, I had to change my money mindset. I had to change the relationships that I was in because you cannot serve the world if you're in unhealthy relationships. Mm-hmm. So instead of saying I should, I made it a must. And if you make it a must, you're probably going to feel uncertain for a while. You're probably going to feel insecure. You're probably going to hear an opinion or two, but your why for why you're doing it is so anchored that no matter what is going on in your external environment, your internal environment is so in tune to your purpose and why you're on this planet. And giving that meaning every day, I believe, is the key to happiness.
Oh, you are amazing. Okay, so for the people that are stuck in sympathetic system, fight or flight, thinking brain, can't rest, can't calm, stuck in the how do I do this? What is your advice in focusing on your why instead of the how?
Yeah, we have to have an emotional anchor because our belief systems are formed by the time we're 7. That's our subconscious, and our subconscious runs the majority of our day, like 90 to 95% of our day. So you can actually think you're in control and feel super certain, but I tell people just embrace the fact that you can feel super certain that you're being run by programming that has been there. And this is neuroscience. This is not like my research. Like nope. Our brains are hardwired. I want you to close your eyes and picture a snow hill. And if you go down in your sled, down the hill, over and over and over and over again, what do you start to see? One rut in the whole hill, right, of snow. And that's what our brain is hardwired to do. We see a challenge, we see a struggle, and we're hardwired to believe that we have no control over it. When in fact, we can go the opposite direction, take another path, and say, what can I learn from this? I can hardwire a new feeling every time I feel fearful. So we have the ability to change our neuroscience. It just takes a lot of repetition. It takes a lot of self-discipline. And the key to it is it requires an emotional anchor. Mm-hmm. And most people miss that. Most people think, if I say a bunch of affirmations, I'm going to change my life. Nope.
No, that will not.
Not if you feel like you're going to barf every time you log into your bank account like I did. Not if you feel the guilt for having a daughter at 21. Not if you don't feel sexy in a relationship or that you have something to offer. Like those are the things that are hardwired that we need to change. So I encourage people to work on your personal growth more than anything. So what area do you need to work on most? Is it confidence? Is it self-belief? Is it you actually need to believe yourself and be consistent for at least 7 days? Then do that. Commit to a morning routine and celebrate that small win after 7 days. It may seem super simple. I had a gal that I helped. She wanted to start walking every day. And I said, I want you to walk a mile every day. And day 7, I want you to text me how happy you are that you did that. She's like, but that seems so simple. It's so ridiculous. And I said, what's ridiculous is you're probably not going to do it because it seems so ridiculously simple. So the things that I teach people are so simple. It's getting back to celebrating the very thing that is going to move you closer to a transformation, not tomorrow, not a week from now. It's going to be years of developing habits, and those habits have to come from a mindset shift, and it has to be emotional.
It has to be emotional. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And most of us judge our emotions after they're coming in, right? So we will,
yep.
Just like you said, that gal said, well, that seems super ridiculous. No, we don't need to judge what we're feeling right now, right? Yeah. So like, how do we get past that judgment of self, which is worthiness, confidence, all the stuff that you just said.
Yeah.
Okay, so what's next for you? Like, where are you going? Where are you going next?
So it's so interesting because I've studied like basic human needs, and I'm obsessed with psychology because I want to know why people do what they do. It makes no sense to me that like we're super unhappy, you know, being overweight, but we continue to do the very thing that makes us unhappy, or we are unhappy feeling, you know, unfulfilled and unhappy in a job, but we stay there. You know, I want to know what makes us create transformation and change, go from survival mode into a transformative state to be a servant-oriented leader. And I've realized I've done that in my life. I've gone from survival mode. I was at rock bottom emotionally, physically, and financially just 4.5 years ago. And what I've realized is I found a vehicle that what it does is it started to create a different pattern for me because it required self-discipline. It kind of ripped me open to my biggest self-limiting beliefs that I had to create no truths around. But more importantly, it stacked the need for growth and contribution over certainty and significance. So I used to feel fulfilled when I was achieving something, when I did something. Praise me for winning, for having an accolade of some kind, because it meant that I was doing something, and that's how I felt significant. Now I have switched the level of, because you would probably agree with me that there's no amount of success that you can achieve that will also make you fulfilled and happy, because that is so personal in the journey. And you think of somebody like Kate Spade, Anthony Bourdain, some of these people that took their own lives having everything that they could possibly have. You probably ask yourself, Robin Williams, right? Like, why does that happen? And it's because the hierarchy of needs is reversed. And if you can start putting contribution and service to others first, I promise you the level of fulfillment that you will have in your life is going to far outweigh your need for significance. That's why I encourage in my challenges random acts of kindness, radical forgiveness. We state intentions and whys. We don't say, what weight do you want to be? Like, who cares? Who cares?
Absolutely.
That's not how we're going to solve the healthcare crisis. We have had enough diet plans fail us, exercise programs fail us, but what will never fail us is how we view the world and the questions we ask ourselves. And when you can start contributing to your own life and to others in a way that's moving the needle into a more positive impact, and there's going to be struggles and challenges. Like I said, I'm going through them right now, but I choose to look at it as a gift. And what am I learning? I'm learning that we are closer now than we've ever been, our level of trust. I learned that because of my business model and having residual passive income every week, I would have probably been fired from another job. You know, if I would have had a job, because of the amount of time it's taken for treatments and other things, you know, that we've had to do together. So once again, I just asked myself a different question. I looked for the gratitude, and I found purpose in my pain. And we can all choose to do that, or we can choose to
Mm-hmm.
say what happened to me is defining me.
Mm-hmm. This is why you're on big stages. You need to be in front of more people speaking this message, because I think the average person sees the person who looks like they have it all as if they had absolutely no obstacles. And this is why I love what this podcast really means, is really putting a magnifying glass on all of those steps that you took, that you continued to take when it really freaking sucked. And when you were getting pushed down the stairs, and you continued to say, this is my path, this is what I'm going to do, and to continue to move our feet forward. Sometimes it's just that easy, right? Is to not allow those things to come in to say, ego, I say it is, to say you can't do this, you should just quit right now, and to never give in to what your gift, how to use your gift and the gift that you really have. And unfortunately, I feel like so many people don't think they have that gift, or that they aren't lucky enough to have a platform to share that gift. And I agree and believe and teach the same as you do, in that it is, if you don't work on yourself, we're not gonna ever get there, right? You can
No. And it doesn't have to be huge. Like, I think a lot of people think that in order to make a difference, you have to do something so ginormous, or you have to speak on a stage. You just don't. We need more people in our communities solving some of these problems, like being more present with people, being more vulnerable, having like face-to-face communication. It's why everything that I do in my business is through experiences and through events, because I want to see people and I want to pour belief into them, and I want them to feel the energy of community and culture, and most importantly, disconnect to connect. We are hardwired for connection as humans. We were not designed to sit behind a computer screen all day and hope that someone cares about us. Like, we have to change that, especially for our kids. Because now more than ever, there's more mental health problems now more than ever, yet we have more access to positivity now more than ever. There's something wrong with that. It's because we're missing human connection in a meaningful way. Like, if you talk to me, I'm not going to talk about the weather. Like, that is not going to get us anywhere. You know, if I meet somebody, I will ask them, like, what's the biggest struggle or challenge that you've overcome in your life? And how did you do it? Who's your number one mentor? Tell me what you desire in your life and why. And people are like, do you really want to know the answer to that? And I'm like, listen, we would not be talking otherwise. What are we doing here? We're not here to talk about the weather. We are here to connect with each other and be here for each other. So yeah, I get pretty deep with people pretty fast, and they're like, oh.
Absolutely. Well, yeah, me too. Many people will say, Tiff, you just can't go that far, that deep so fast. I'm like, what? Like, what else is there? Yeah, the rest is, like you said, it's BS. It's fake.
Totally. Yes,
it's
absolutely.
Which is exactly when we're looking to make an impact in our community with our kids through our work. Fake won't get us there. It won't. And it also requires the courage to be vulnerable, right? The courage to ask different questions, the courage to think different thoughts as to what is really possible in your life. So thank you. You're gonna help a lot of people by your story, because once again, real life stories is connection. That there's no way we can say that that's not true. And hopefully it will take them back into their life and some of these steps that they've also overcome without even maybe knowing that, because we haven't, people don't put a magnifying glass on the whole dash from the time they were born to where they're at now. They put that magnifying glass on the failure, the perceived failure, or the perceived mistake. And then there's the rut and the snow hill, and that's all they see. So, together we can help millions, my friend.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you so much for listening and being willing to go all in. Ditch the excuses and the comfort zones and make a decision that nothing can stop you. You can find the show notes below, and I'd love for you to share, subscribe, and rate this podcast, but only if you love it.